And welcome to Writer's Life, place where you get the sight, sound, smells, taste of my personal writer's life, because it's so glamorous, and where you get the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help Troy Silence of the Lamberts. And our special guest today, Michael Evans. Michael is a young entrepreneur, started Ream, right?
Yes.
And of which I belong to Ream. And now we have something that is really blowing my mind here. But Michael's going to take over Hollywood because Michael's creating, with just your book or your story, he's creating feature-length films or short films or video trailers, I believe. And he's doing it using AI technology, which is, wave of the future. No question about it. If you're a writer who's not using this as a tool, then you're a fool. You see what I did there?
There you go. That was very clever.
Very poetic.
Very
Yes,
poetic.
it was.
That's
So
what
Mike,
Vince is known for, is his poetry.
yes. My first book was I'm a Poet and You Know It. And the second book was I'm a Poet and You Know It Too.
Oh,
And I'm working on the third. I'm a Poet and You Know It. The third coming. So I added that little bit in there. Like the third coming.
good to
Not like the second coming, which is something else. The third coming.
It's a different type of poetry.
Right.
Thanks for getting us off on the first tangent, Vincent. I appreciate it.
Right. All right.
That might have
Mike.
been my fault. I don't know.
All right. Stop taking up Mike's time. He's a very busy man. Mike, so not for nothing, but you look like you just got out of high school. So, like, how long you been at this business? Give us the Wikipedia.
Yeah, I guess almost a decade now, 8.5 years. But I started when I was very young. So I guess over a decade if I count when I started writing books. I started writing books when I was 13, and I got into self-publishing them. I was like 14 going on 15, so I was just old enough to get my first job, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna work. I was a pool attendant at a resort. I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, so I was a pool attendant there. I would hand out towels and check people in,
Right.
and I saved up all my money that I made that summer to publish my first book. I saved up just about $4,000,
Wow.
and I should not have spent that much on my first book.
That is a lot.
Publishing is a lot. I ended up going with a sort of what we'll call a vanity press. So they spent, they overcharged me for everything. I didn't really learn until after that fact, but it was kind of, it felt like very achievable to be like, I can just send my file off and everything will be taken care of for me. And that was very appealing. And again, I'm not recommending authors do that at all. You should learn it yourself and save the money. It's well worth it. And that's what I did after. And then I wrote a few more books. And I kind of was like, I knew I wanted to do this full time. I wanted to be an author. I wanted to be in the creator space. And I was increasingly just the word would be maybe bored, not entertained by school. And obviously dropping out of high school is not as glamorous as dropping out of college. So I wasn't able to get my mom on board with that. So I ended up being able to get ahead of my classes, graduate a year early, and I pseudo wrote full time for a year, where I was living at home, and I was just writing and working my job to keep funding the books and ads and things like that. So I ended up publishing 12 books by the time I went to college. There's many stories and lessons in that, but that led to me pivoting to YouTube and live streaming. That was kind of the first time I had I'd say success that turned to actual profit in any sort of creator activity. Specifically, I was a full-time IRL, which is in real life live streamer, where I was creating these interactive stories of me and my buddy playing manhunt and scavenger hunt in different cities across the country. And we were road tripping. It was extremely fun. But things like that don't last forever, mostly because you realize you don't want to spend your entire life on the road. And that's when I started to get into the startup space, specifically for writers. And then Ream was something that I did for 2 years. And then I worked for Mr. Beast for about 7 or 8 months when I graduated school. And then ever since like quitting Mr. Beast, I've been kind of like back into the startup space. And now that's been Creatorwood, but I do like consulting for some top creators. And then I also like still do a lot of stuff in the author community. Like I have a whole kind of company for authors called Author Sidekick. So I do a lot of things, but all of it's storytelling and tech. And I'm lucky to have a team of like really smart people working with me. So yeah, that's kind of my arc. So it's weird, but it all starts with sci-fi. I wrote sci-fi books. I love tech. And I think now I feel like I write science fiction in a different way. I kind of tell a story of the future that is somewhat fictional, and then we go and try and create it together. And I think the story that I've been passionate about for many, many years is how can we use technology to help storytellers rule the world? And I think now might just be the best time to do that.
Right. And you say that because of all the opportunity that's out there. I mean, I'm always like, there's no better time to be a writer, and it's because of all the opportunities. I have an agent, and we shop books, and I work traditionally and I work independently. But it's no longer like Troy and I talk about this all the time. There's no longer like lying awake in bed at night sweating to death because like, is my book going to sell, and am I going to get that check, that advance check, to help pay all my back due bills? And now it's just a matter of how your book's going to get published, which paradoxically is not so great for writers because the market is saturated, probably oversaturated. There's more product than there is buyer. So we have to work harder at promoting our books and creating our own little tribes and stuff like that. And segueing into what you're doing with Creatorwood and the AI films, I think that could be a real groundbreaker. Because I know for sure I would love. We were just talking in the green room about Troy and I have this new imprint called Book Blast, and it's thriller reads for short thriller reads for readers on the go or something like that. And it would make, like, for some reason these so far they've turned out to be sort of like Twilight Zone-ish books, and they would be great for this AI project. So how does a writer get involved?
Yeah, well, first, I think it's just even understanding like where we're at right now, like this time in history, because I think we've all seen the rise of self-publishing, and that didn't happen for film, at least not yet. And I think that moment's happening right now. So what self-publishing did was it took one of the big sort of grapple holds that gatekeepers had, which was distribution, right? Being able to publish your book. It's not something you really could do. You could write a book, but that didn't mean it was going to end up on bookshelves, right? You had to get permission from someone. And the rise of self-publishing made it so that anyone could publish to digital bookshelves. And as you mentioned, there's ups and downs to that. The ups are there's no permissions anymore. The downs are that now you have to take permission or responsibility for your distribution. But in that world, you see a much greater diversity of stories and even more people to make a living, right? It grows the whole pie. That has not happened for film, despite the fact that, if you look at the broad space, like you can upload film online, right? Like no one's telling you can't upload film online. And that's where most eyeballs are. It's not like the movie theaters. It's funny actually, because independent bookstores have held, and even physical book sales have held on much more than anything in film has. Like films totally shifted online in comparison, yet there's no true indie space there. And it's for one simple, yet not easy reason to solve, which is that films are just really expensive to produce. So I wanted to give a guess. Maybe the audience can guess too. And right now, and if you're not listening live, I suppose you'll have to just write your guess down now. But Troy, Vincent, what do you think the average cost to produce a movie or show is in Hollywood right now?
No, it's got to be
Average.
Yeah.
300 million.
No, I'd say average probably 20 million, because there's probably some low budget films, some high. So maybe even it out. 20
Troy
million.
was close to Vincent, but
Okay.
it's in between. It's in between. It's 80 million.
80 million. I think that sounds cheaper than I expected.
Yeah, it's still a lot. It's still a lot.
Once you're over that million mark.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I don't know.
All right,
if I
I'm
can
out.
afford that.
Once you're over 500,000, I'm out.
We'll just write a
Right.
check, Vince. We'll just write a check. It's fine.
Yeah, I can go to my mother and ask her for a check.
We'll
She'll
put
be
it
like,
on
all
the-
right, what are you doing this time? Well, Mom.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy though. So, and then there's another interesting thing, which is, we have 2.7 million ebooks published a year, yet there's just about 1,000 scripted productions that Hollywood makes. When you add up Nollywood, which is Lagos, Nigeria, they have a huge film center for Africa there. Then, of course, there's Bollywood, which is India's center. And you add up even all other global film centers, you're still under 10,000 scripted productions a year.
Right.
A fraction, right? A small fraction of the number of stories that are produced in a given year. Now, I'm not suggesting that every story should be a movie, but I do believe there's a lot more stories that deserve a shot to be seen. And that's where like this moment in time comes in with AI, right? Where there's been this explosion, just like we saw with large language models, which is like mostly what you interact with when you use something like ChatGPT. There's been this recent explosion in video models, which instead of using language, right, they output video. And these video models are pretty remarkable in what they're capable of. They are still, I would say, early in the sense that if you're expecting a video model to give you like consistent Hollywood level production, that's not going to be what you get. But if you think about it, early days of Kindle, when the books were a little rough, the editing was the covers were like, what is this? But the stories were there. We're really at that point now, especially with the rise of like VO3, Runway's got in really good. And I saw this and was like, wow, epically cool, especially coming from like storytelling and video. Like that was my intersection. And working at Beast, like my job there was like really related to like data, platform partnerships, and new technology. So I was getting like the inside scoop on this all and was like, yeah, I see where this is going. And where this is going is that now anyone can make a film, but how are they going to build a business doing that? And it was unclear because what are you going to distribute your film to Netflix? Very quickly. I mean, some people will be able to. I encourage folks to try and do that. But at some point, Netflix is going to be flooded with content, and they're much more producing content themselves, right? They've been their model. They spend $15 billion a year on that. Then you have the YouTubes of the world, which I've become very acquainted with. I love YouTube as a platform, by the way. I absolutely think it's a great platform, but it's also not built for building a business, creating episodic fictional content. And there's two reasons why. One is the algorithm. Literally, like think about each YouTube as like video as its like own like separate piece of real estate that you have to like be able to click in and watch without having any prior context. Therefore, like episodic storytelling just isn't usually what rises on YouTube. The other part, which is equally important, is the business model, right? YouTube's built off of videos reaching mass scale and viewership and an advertising-based model, which is awesome. But the problem is if you're not getting millions of views, it's not that awesome. And the cost to produce an AI film right now is, it depends on the length, but you can produce something roughly feature length, like 90 minutes. If we consider 90 minutes feature length, 3 to 5K is like a good range. You'll probably end up right around 4K. $4,000 is how much it cost me to publish my first book. I overpaid for that, but it blows my like mind, nearly a decade later to look at that and be like, wow, like look, I can get a movie from that now. But if I publish that movie to YouTube, I now need to get literally 1 million plus views to make my money back. And as much as I think there's a lot of opportunity in this type of filmmaking and indie storytelling, 1 million views is a really high bar. So that's when I got the idea and I called up like my like absolute smartest friend I know. His name's Sasha. He's my co-founder and Creatorwood. And I was like, dude, I wouldn't say this with like a light heart. Like there's something really big happening in media that no one sees, which is that there's going to be this self-publishing revolution, but for film. And the problem is there's no platform built to help people run that type of business. How can I sell films directly to my audience? So we built that and launched it, and I got great reaction from it, and it was really, really exciting, except no one was uploading films. And I was giving like free workshops, and here's how to use this AI tool, here's how to do this thing. And it just wasn't happening. And I had to finally ask people like, you know, are you just being nice to me? Because that's totally cool. Like, you know, thank you for being nice to me. But then, you know, I'll go work on something else. Like, you know, absolutely, I want to help you. If this doesn't help you, let's not do this. But they're like, no, if I'm going to be honest with you, it's just way too challenging. Like you told me all these things, but it's still going to take me 400 or 500 hours to make a film doing what you told me. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like, you know what? Totally right. And honestly, who has that kind of time? Very few people. Especially if you're already writing the stories. Like, who has the time to write the story then spend 100 hours making the film? Mind you, that's still mind-blowing that's possible, but it's not easy. So that's when we kind of were like, okay, great, we have this platform, but we need to build the movie machine, the true thing that not only brings the cost of creation closer to zero for films, but the time and ease of creation as close to zero or really easy as possible. So, you know, we're really built, you know, there's other AI video tools out there, and we integrate with them. We integrate with the image tools, we integrate with all the different models, and we're really an app that sits on top of this massive AI wave happening with very simple thesis that storytellers and writers can now create film, but you don't need to be a filmmaker to make film anymore. So how do we abstract filmmaking from the process of creating films so that truly, like in a real soulful sense, like storytellers can rule the world, and all you need is the story. So, you know, that's the sort of ethos of what we do. The reality is you just upload your book or scripts work too, and we output all of your characters, their voices, all of the scenes, all of the shots. And then from there, you click one button and we make a whole scene for you. And you can edit it throughout the way. You can edit your storyboard, you can edit your characters. So I don't want to make it sound too simple, but at the same time, it's not overly complicated either.
Right. Troy, what do you think
Yeah.
about this? As
Well, so
author
I would say
extraordinaire?
like I've uploaded stuff to it and seen the storyboard. Now I want to upload some more stuff to it that I think would actually work better for this than because the story that I uploaded is the story within a story. And it was really interesting what the AI tried to do to it. But with the storyboard, right? And so actually, like I could make that particular piece, like I could make that into a movie and it would work, right? It'd be, but you still have to spend some hours like rearranging your storyboard, making sure your characters look like what you want them to be. But the thing is, it's not going to be 500 hours. Maybe it's going to be 10, you know, maybe less in some circumstances, maybe a little more if you're doing feature length 90-minute film or
Yeah,
whatever.
you could
But like
spend
for our
20
stuff,
hours. Yeah.
yeah, for our stuff, for the short stuff, like you could probably upload the story, spend 5 to 7 hours on the rearranging the storyboard, maybe reshooting some of the scenes, then push the button, the scene appears, and boom, you have now. But I mean, the provision is obviously you need to have a good story to start with. Well, we have those. So as an author, you need to have a good story because it's going to become very evident when you upload. If it's not a good story, like it's going to produce these random shots, you're going to be like, what is this? Well, it's your story actually, but
Right.
it just wasn't very good.
Right.
So you're going to find out really quick if your story is not either not very good or not very adaptable to film, one of those
Right.
two
Not
type of things.
cinematic.
So it's still going to require some work, and it still requires you to be a good storyteller. But the amount of work and the amount of money to take your story from written word to film is so much cheaper. And I still think, like we've talked about it before. Mike and I have talked about it before. Well, you create a pilot, right? You create a pilot and see if, like, because the other thing is you have to market it. So just like you have to market your books, you're going to have to market your AI films. Now, there's going to be some advantages, just like when we started out, Vince and I both started out ages before you did publishing. But you can look at us and
Century
see
ago,
that
believe
that's
it or
true.
not.
But anyway, but yeah, but back then, like you still could get some pretty easy organic traffic because you were one of the first, right? Then that organic traffic went away and we had to start working harder because,
Right.
it wasn't just like on autopilot, you still had to work to build your community and all that kind of stuff. I think it's the exact same thing with film. Is I think you're going to have to advertise, you're going to have to bring people to your films, and exponentially, because it's more expensive to create than a book, then you're going to have to bring more people to, so you're going to have to be able to market a movie. And I think that's the first step in creating a trailer and stuff is, or a pilot of your books or whatever, is to create, an initial first episode and say, are my readers and the people in my audience interested in this? Do I have to gather a new audience? But I think when you do, like we see it all the time, people go see a movie and then they'll go back and read the book that the movie was based on. So there's all kinds of, like, as Michael called it, beyond the book, that this enables authors to do. So having seen it on the inside and played around with it on the inside, and I'm super excited about, like, I've been so busy these last few weeks, I really just wanted to go in there and just play with that all day. Just to create one thing that I can say, okay, whoa, this is what this thing can do.
Don't worry, Troy. We're releasing a great update like tonight into tomorrow. So like that'll be when it's really like it's getting rapidly better.
I'm clearing my schedule tomorrow. Just clear. I'm not even going to be around. Just anyway. But you know what I mean? Like I think this is a fantastic time and opportunity for authors. But I also think, like, not every author is going to want to be a filmmaker too. Like, not every author is going to want to do this. But I think it's an opportunity for authors. And I also think that there's going to be an industry that grows up around it. Somebody's going to say, hey, I want to make a movie, but I don't want to do all the storyboarding and all that kind of work. So, hey, here, Troy, here's my story. Can you take it to Creative Wood and make it into something for me? And then you would charge people for that appropriately and make them a movie. And it would still turn out to be thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands cheaper than if they tried to go and get an independent filmmaker to make that movie for them. I mean, the exponential, how much cheaper it is, it's not nothing. It's not nothing, because I know from creating images and all that kind of stuff, and even short little video using AI, that it's not cheap, but it's cheap compared to any other way to make film.
Right.
I mean, it's just.
This isn't the same thing, but I have a subscription to Imagine. And I make these little 5-second videos, like, based on images and a little bit of story from whatever I'm working on, and I'll use it maybe for a Kickstarter or I'll just for social media, and it's the most fun, and it's just amazing. Like I'm working on this thing, Alligator Alcatraz, right now, and they've made a couple of really great videos for it, and it's just amazing. I think, I think it's more amazing than probably the people who are seeing it on social media. They're like, kind of like, all right, Vince playing again, but it's fantastic, and if that's even just a semblance of what you're doing, I just, it's very exciting. I mean, I'd love it just for even the a book trailer.
Yeah.
We're like, how much would a book trailer be, for instance? Say, like, okay, here, I want to do a book trailer. Mike, how much is that going to cost me?
All in, like, one trailer is probably going to be like maybe $1 to $150, depending on the length. Like if it's 60 seconds, because you'll ingest your story, but then you could create like 10 or 20 trailers. Probably, like, once you ingest your story, ingestion of a story costs like $50 to $60. But once you ingest your story and it's in our system, we're going to be coming out with the trailer feature where you'll say, I don't want a normal storyboard. I want to make a trailer storyboard. So then we'll just create like 10 or 20 trailer concepts for you. So then based on like $60, you can turn it into probably, like, each trailer might cost you an additional like 50 to 100. But you can make like 5 or 10 trailers. And I think a lot of people are going to use this for ads, right? They're going to like use this as their creative and bring more readers in from it. So you're looking at like a relatively affordable cost. You could even probably do it. It depends. When I say 50 to 100, that sounds like a wide range. It's because the cost to produce a minute of film on Creative Wood really is right around like $30. It's a little less than that. So it's not terribly expensive to produce a minute of film. It depends on like exactly what the shots are, because we route things to different models. But think like $25 is like gonna get you like a minute of film, right? So you could get a trailer for $25. That's the thing. But I shoot higher because folks will regenerate, right? And I think that like our goal is for you not to have to regenerate a lot. That's the ideal. But there's also parts of the clips that you're going to cut out. So like a minute of finished film is going to be different from a minute of like produced film. So you might produce 2 minutes of film to then get that minute you like, because you cut out 30 seconds you didn't like, you did retakes on maybe another 20 or 30 seconds, and you had that minute trailer, which is where, you know, what you could, again, theoretically get a minute of video for $25. Really, like you're probably going to spend in that 50 to maybe up to $100 range. I think anything above 100 is like not fully necessary for a minute long trailer at all. But just to set expectations. But that's a process you have control of too. Like there might be some folks who are like, I'm running this as an ad. I'm actually okay if this shot's a little janky. And there might be some other folks who are like, I want to get this completely perfect, right? And that's up to you as a creative. And that's also like kind of part of the filmmaking process in general. Like, you know, there's always constraints. You're never always going to get the shot you want, but you kind of have to settle in a sense, which is weird. I'll say as well that like there are certain things the models are good at now. There's certain things that they're okay at. I wouldn't say bad, but okay. And they're going to get better with time. So like character consistency is like pretty darn good, but it's not perfect. It's very easy to, we're very good at telling that type of thing as humans, right? Another thing is settings, decent, not perfect. Physics, a lot of the times it can be good, but you'll have a shot here and there that's weird, where like the physics of it don't make sense. So you can always regenerate to try and get better. But like if people are going for perfect at this stage of the tech, mind you, perfect's impossible in films in general. But if people are truly going for like close to perfection, you can very quickly spend a lot of money. And I would either say that like one, like, you know, you might not be best for this process, because I don't want you to just rack up a crazy bill. But then the second thing is if you can come to terms with like, here are my expectations. You know, this is going to be rough around the edges, but it's still going to tell the story. I think you can walk away like really happy and on like a really fair budget. So my goal is to like help set people's expectations. Like I can talk about some fantastical future where like the tech gets better, because it always does. But you know, that's where it's at right now, where it's like, it's impressive. It's really good. But you know, to say it's perfect is like absolutely a lie.
Well, yeah, I've used like Imagine Art to piece together like trailers and stuff like that. And there's some things it's just not very good at it. And if you keep regenerating to try to make it, first of all, it doesn't really get better. If it's not good at it the first time, it's not better the second time. And you're just, every time it's just cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. You're like, okay. So, and I think, but Hollywood's the same way. So like, I always tell people, you know, Stephen King, when he goes into movies, he goes in usually with another director or whatever, even if they give him a producer credit. And he says he goes in with one or two things that he says, this I absolutely want. And the rest of it, he doesn't care about and he doesn't get. And the reason is, even Stephen King can't rule Paramount's budget. You know what I mean? Like they got a budget for a film and you can't totally blow your budget. So you should probably go into this process with a budget and say, I'm going to pay $75 per 30-second trailer. You know?
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to do a 30-second trailer for ads, and I'm going to spend a maximum of $75 per 30-second trailer. So when you start regenerating, you get to that. Oh, because sometimes what I'll do is if a shot is just really like, I can't get AI to make it good at all for a book trailer, I just cut that shot and put in a different one. Then it knows what to do, because you have to. So part of this process, so I always talk about all the time that writing is about thinking and feeling, but so is filmmaking. Like AI is a tool that helps you bring out what you're thinking and what you want the reader to feel or the viewer to feel. So it's about thinking and feeling, and it's not going to not be about thinking and feeling just because you use AI. It's the same way with writing. It's not going to be not about thinking and feeling just because you're using a new tool. Just because we switched from typewriters to computers didn't mean that suddenly we stopped thinking and feeling and we just put words down in a word processor. No, it doesn't work that way. So like this doesn't work that way either. So that's what I just tell people is, hey, have a budget in mind of like, this is how
Absolutely.
much I can spend on this film, or this is
Right.
how much I can spend per trailer, and reasonably expect, and then don't be
Right.
married to your shot so much that you will just regen and regen and regen and regen until, because it's not going to get better. If AI is not good at it, it's not going to get
It's
better.
budget
Not right now.
and cash flow. Cash flow
Yeah.
is also important, like
Oh
the
yeah,
two
cash
things,
flow.
because
Hmm.
which we don't always think about this as authors, because our creation process isn't typically it's a function of time, not necessarily cash. I mean, cash and time go hand in hand. Let's be real, like
Yeah, let's be
I
real.
really
Yeah,
does it
yeah.
hurt. So I mean, everything goes back to, in our capitalist economy, cash in one way or another. But like truly, how I advise people to think about it. And by the way, like when I'm saying what I'm about to say, it sounds like I might not be speaking in the best interest of Creatorwood, but like to give you like my vision here, like I want to help people make 30 or 40 movies in their lifetime, like an individual person. There's zero people who, not zero, but very, very few people who have the ability to do that going out of pocket and losing money on 30 or 40 films. Like just dropping 100K on films, absolutely not. Like I don't know who can do that. I would feel like terrible if someone, if someone does that because they want to and they're like, they feel really good about it, fine. But like if someone like keeps trying to make it and is spending that much money, like that would like crush me, right? So what I want people to do instead is like, yes, we want people to build sustainable careers where they make their money back. And then we know that if you make your money back, hopefully you take some as profit, you keep some, but you're also going to want to make another movie so you can make more money. It's something that feeds itself. So that's what I want. I'd rather have 10 times less people make movies, but the people who are making movies are making 10 times more. Now, I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't make a movie, okay? Obviously, I'm not suggesting that. But what I am suggesting is, like Troy was talking about at the beginning, a pilot, like reframe how you think about it. So we have this calculator at pricing.creatorwood.tv. It's not like an official, we give you exactly what your film's going to cost once you upload it, each scene. Although you can like delete shots and change the shots, which will also edit the cost. Sometimes if you add shots, it'll get more expensive. If you delete shots, it gets cheaper. So you have control of that. But the pricing calculator, it's, doesn't require an email. It's just a web page. It gives you like a 60-second snapshot of like, okay, here's what it might cost to spend to produce my vision. So let's say you're making a 90-minute movie. That cost is roughly $4,000 at what I'm estimating to be model cost plus regenerations, right? You can adjust how heavily you want to regenerate. I have like a setting that like I recommend people do. That's basically like controlling the perfectionist, but like you can go a little heavier, a little lighter, if that makes sense. And you might end up anywhere between like 3 and 5K for a 90-minute film. Cool. So I don't have 3K right now, right? That's super normal. Most people do not have 3K to just spend overnight on something. Never mind something that's unproven. I mean, that's just like, could be, that's not necessarily always the best idea. So it's like, instead of making your full movie, what if you make the first 10 minutes? What if you make the first 15 minutes? Okay, well, that's great. Well, then with that, well, what if you make the first 5 minutes? What if you make the first 2 minutes? Okay, it doesn't matter how big or small you get. I want to give 2 examples and then kind of how we built this into the tech. So first of all, obviously, if you're only making 10 minutes, now we're talking about an expense that is like, in the $300 to $500 range. I mean, that's a big difference, y'all. Like that's a big difference, much more achievable. And if you're talking about something that's 2 minutes, it might be $100 expense out of pocket. There's going to be some level of investment, but $100 to me is a lot more achievable than $3,000. And what's great too is, again, you take this at your own pace. You pay as you go. So no one's ever telling you like you have to commit to a movie. Like no. You produce one scene at a time. But then, okay, I have this scene. You can now release that scene, and you can do 2 things at once. One is, as Troy was mentioning, validate that there's something there, right? Does an audience want this? And then 2, you get the emails of the readers who follow you, or the viewers who do. You get the emails of people who purchase your films. And this is where it gets really interesting, because what I've noticed is the rise of short form micro dramas, particularly Real Shorts and Drama Box. Drama Box ranks higher than Netflix in the App Store. For those who don't know, these are apps that produce basically short 90-second episodes that you pay 30 to 50 cents for per episode. Very, very short, right? And they, for lack of better words, they print money. They make billions of dollars a year in the US, and they didn't even exist a little while ago. A lot of these are adapting serial fiction books and adapting books. They're produced by humans. This is not AI. This is like a studio behind this all, but they're crushing it. Well, what if you did the same thing and produced something super, super short? But obviously, you don't even have to charge free for it. You could charge 30 cents, 40 cents. Now, traditionally, that is like a mind-numbingly bad idea because of payment processing fees, right? If you were to charge 50 cents for something, traditionally, 40 cents would go to payment processors, right around 40 cents, almost all of it. You're going to keep almost nothing. On Creatorwood, regardless of the amount you charge, you can charge as little as 10 cents per episode. And I'm not suggesting everyone charge 10 cents, by the way. I think a full film is worth a lot more than 10 cents. But if we're talking about like a short little blip, you get 80%. You get 80%. That sounds like science fiction, but we built our payment technology to take coins up front from readers in USD, take out the payment fees up front. So we're giving like a $10 minimum that people have to come in at, but then they can spend those coins over time on multiple episodes across the platform. So that leads to a very friendly environment for microtransactions, but one in which like coins equate directly to USD. So it's not some like weird system. It's super transparent. Like you just price it at one coin, you get 80% of the value of that coin. One coin equals 10 cents. Seems kind of like weird, but it's really how you build a system that gets around these microtransactions and makes it easier to make pilots. So that's the extremely long-winded way of saying that we are very passionate about helping you not just make films, but build a business. And I think authors listening to this in particular have an advantage because I've been in the author community for a while. I had a hunch that like most of the folks on this were going to be authors, and I still have to even change some of our marketing language now because like I'm shocked that that's not true. Like a third of our audience to maybe 40% would consider themselves authors. Maybe 25% to 30% are self-published. It's a minority. Another 30 to 40% are like screenwriters, tons and tons of screenwriters who've never self-published before. And then we have like 20% who I'd say are like completely net new to storytelling and want to do interesting things. When I work with a screenwriter, they have the same marketing problem that you have, but they're starting from absolutely nothing. They don't have any audience. They're talented storytellers, but they've got no, like they're starting from ground zero. Whereas if you're an author, especially, it doesn't matter your level of readership. Even just a few readers is like actually an advantage to getting started here because they can be people who help you get your early funding for this without needing to go like ridiculous, out of pocket. And I think that's a huge advantage because unlike audiobooks, where a lot of existing ebook readers don't read audiobooks, if you're an existing ebook or audiobook reader or paperback reader, like why, I mean, not everyone watches movies to be clear, but like it's additive. I can read the ebook and the movie. Rarely do you read the ebook and the paperback book or read the ebook and the audiobook. So it's a tangential product that you can sell to your existing audience in many cases. We're so early in this that I can't provide data on what that conversion looks like, what genres convert the best. But like, it's kind of like a sort of nothing experiment in a sense. Like, you can try it out and see at a very low risk. And I think that's what I'm interested in people doing. I want people to like try this out as like risk-free as possible. And then I hope it works out for many of y'all and that you want to do this a lot more.
Right. I can see this. I mean, a couple things like, if this goes well, for sure you'll be competing with Hollywood, and if we're talking about it, they're talking about it, And I've had situations, Troy, I don't know if you have, but I think you probably have, but I've had certain books take off, certain indie books, and that's led to major deals. And I could almost see where like, okay, we make this like 45-minute or half an hour episode of the episodic thing. And like, wow, look at all the hits we're getting and look at all the, we're doing great with it. And now would a studio call our agent and say like, we see what's going on here. We'd like to grab those rights and do a major production of it. You foresee something like that? Or once it's made, is that it?
No. I think there's gonna be two things that happen concurrently. I think there's gonna be like people who get picked up by Hollywood, etc. And like this is kind of like the proving ground, almost like self-publishing is sometimes now for traditional.
Right.
That will happen for sure. I'm questioning like traditional publishing publishes a magnitude more books in a year than Hollywood makes in scripted films. So I think what we have to see is like for that to become like something really meaningful. I mean, it's going to be really meaningful for the people it happens for, to be clear, extremely meaningful. But for it to become a more like broader thing, I think we need to see Hollywood producing more. I think that AI is going to help Hollywood be more efficient, but I don't know if it's going to help them 10x their productions. And I think you would start to need to see that, because what's going to happen on something like Creatorwood is like we're going to probably quickly ramp up to. I mean, in month one, we'll probably be at a run rate of producing more films than Hollywood does in a year in terms of volume. And within a year, we'll probably be producing something like 100 to maybe even 1,000 times what Hollywood does in a year, right? There's going to be, in short order, hundreds of thousands of films being produced each year on Creatorwood. So there's going to be like, out of, you take all the films on Creatorwood, like a very small portion would ever have this opportunity. But I think you need like the sort of films that Hollywood even goes after to grow for it to even be semi-meaningful, because we have to capture like 10% of books published to, again, like create like a mega Cambrian explosion of films. And I don't see how that doesn't happen, because we're also having net new people who didn't publish books come into this ecosystem. So looking at it as books is not even the right way to think about it. So I think like it's a really big market, and I think that's like one thing. But I think the other thing is that we're going to see a whole new range of studios come about. And I think this is going to be actually extremely material.
That's what I think. Yeah.
And you're going to see people, and this is like an arbitrage right now where like, if I wasn't starting Creatorwood because I'm investing all of my money into Creatorwood, but if I had anything left over to put into anything else, I'd probably start a studio on the platform where I take a genre I'm passionate about, and I can now work with, I mean, at this point, like the underutilized IP is like indie author IP. When I say underutilized, like IP that like has more value than it's really being worked for, right? So you can go to an indie author and offer them like a great deal, by the way. Like, let's go split profits 50-50 on this. Something like that, right? Your out-of-pocket cost now to produce that film is what? Like, we're talking 4 to 5K. If you hire someone to produce it on your behalf and use Creatorwood, maybe you're getting close to a 10K mark. I mean, that's an incredibly low investment in terms of making a film. And if you're already working with someone who like has an audience, there could be like an instant guaranteed payback on that. For a lot of authors, this is not a like large, again, for many authors, it's an incredible amount of money. And don't want to overstate that. But for many authors that do well, the authors we know, like this is absolutely, chump change. So it's like, okay, great. Well, now you do two things as a studio. Not only can you build relationships and a brand in that space, but we give you, Creatorwood, all of the emails of everyone who follows or purchases your films. So now as a studio, your next film can be distributed directly to that audience. Like, forget if you want to go on Creatorwood or not. I hope you stay on the platform because it's good for you. But if it's not, like, it doesn't matter. You have that data, and then you can start to license net new IP, right? Like IP that like no one's really discovered yet. IP from that screenwriter who's never been published before. And then if you are a studio who also understands publishing, you could own the life cycle from, I take someone who is net new to indie storytelling, because we're seeing so many new people who don't even know about indie authorship coming in, and do the whole life cycle for them, knowing that you have a built-in audience, which really no publisher has. Like all these small presses now that are like publishing on behalf of indie authors, like they just know the Amazon algorithm well. Yeah, they have some mailing lists themselves, but they're not selling direct. They're usually publishing on Amazon. So they have an audience, but it's not like this would be. So I think that's going to be very material. And something like I often think about is like, for every 100 films produced on Creatorwood, how much are going to be produced by studio? How much are going to be produced by like independent people? How much are going to be produced by like agencies or like other people like Troy suggesting where you hire someone? I don't know what the split is, but it's super clear to me that like, that like it's going to be more than 10%, I think, that are produced by studios, or more than 10% of sales will come from studios. I'm confident.
Because I mean, let's think about it for a minute and what Hollywood actually produces when we talk about those scripted films. Another Jack Reacher, another episode of Fast and Furious 14, because there was so much more story to tell. And you know what I mean? Like all of those type of things, right? They're taking established IP. Well, you've got your Chase Baker series. I've got my Capital City Murder series. We already have things that not only could we use the IP that we have created, but other people could create things from that IP, license that IP from us, and create things that would be that now producing a series of Chase Baker films is possible because even if you go to a studio, so let's say we start Bear Media Studios instead of just Bear Media Imprint, and we have
Right.
people that are making movies for us, right? Well, then they start making movie for other people. Think about, we could grab Shrek and Keltner and all those guys that we know,
Right.
and
Yep.
they could be making movies of their stuff through our studio, and they make money, we make money, everybody makes money. But the thing is that IP that has not been seen in this way before gets seen. Because one of the things that drew me to Michael initially was when he just said the simple phrase of storytellers rule the world. And I'm like, storytellers already rule the world,
Right.
but we're going to make it even a bigger deal, because this is the way people learn how to navigate their lives, is through story. And it doesn't matter how that story is created, doesn't matter what medium it comes to them in. We all know those stories that we read when we were younger that literally shaped our lives, right? I just posted a picture on Facebook of me sitting rereading Fahrenheit 451 because Stacy and I analyzed that chapter as a great way to basically a great blueprint for writing a beautiful first chapter. But I was reading it while I was out camping, sitting by a fire. Yes, I did that on purpose. But anyway,
Right. Excellent.
but
Get
you
it?
know what I mean? And think of it this way too, is things that have become public domain. So you can make a black and white Winnie the Pooh movie right now, rewrite it, put on Creatorwood. It's the IP is in the public domain.
Yes, you can.
So, the horror at Pooh Corner that somebody put out or whatever, that was just freaking hilarious, a horror movie with Winnie the Pooh. I mean, you can, now that can become, fairy tales, you can retell fairy tales. So it's not just Hollywood that can remake Sleeping Beauty.
What we actually have seen a tremendous amount of is religious stories that people want to tell now. So adapting all sorts of religions, but because effectively, that's is sort of public IP as well, or it's in the public domain for the most part. So there's we've had like churches actually want to produce their own movies, which is just the weirdest thing to me. But like in a way, like it's great, but it's weird in the sense that I'm like, who would have ever thought a church could make their own movie?
But think about this. Like, there are churches that have come up with their worship bands have created albums.
Yeah,
because now, right? So
and they're ahead of it. They're thinking, how can we market ourselves?
We can retell Noah's Ark. We can tell the story. I mean, what a great horror story. We should work on it, Vince, Joe.
Yeah.
And we should just do a noir story, an episodic noir story of Job.
Right.
And freaking make a movie out of it, because you can.
Right.
Like, I mean, so this is all accessible. This is like every time I talk to Michael about this, or talk to anybody about this, I get more ideas.
The apocalypse, the Gospel of John.
Right. Literally, I mean, there's some things like, because we're on air, I don't even want to float these ideas around because it's going to sound like, like, I want to make sure like I'm keeping it focused on what's possible today. But like every single couple days, like, especially because I'm super enmeshed in the tech side, I'm like, oh wow, like we can do this, we can help them do this, we can help them do it. Like we cannot work fast enough, and it's just like unbelievable where we're at right now. And I think one thing I will say that I'm fully confident in, and like I'm 100% like I know I'm right about, and we'll see this come to life, is that there's going to be tens of billions of dollars made a year doing this type of thing. Will it happen on Creatorwood? I have no idea. Will it happen because of Creatorwood? I have no idea. Absolutely not. I think we will help push it forward for sure. Maybe we can be a big player in this, and maybe we can really help this come to life. But like, there's something about this that just feels inevitable to me.
Sure.
And I think it's incredibly exciting to see what's going to happen, because how I like view it is like, there's just endless opportunity for so many people to build and create incredible stories and experiences for viewers that are desperate for it. Because think about what's happening concurrently. Every freaking company in the world is charging these viewers, an arm and a leg, and we're all viewers too, so we know it. Arm and a leg for these random subscriptions. We're back in cable era effectively. We just have a new name for it, but we're back in the cable era. No one's really like, half these things you don't even want to watch. They're not
more than that. A lot more than that. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, what if we just had people pay for the films they want to watch? Creators get to all control it, And there's a ton more films made that can appeal to people's actual interests, because of
Mhm.
course, no one's suggesting that Hollywood should be able to create films for the whole world. I hope Hollywood still keeps creating films, but Creatorwood can make films for everyone. And it's not just Creatorwood. It's Creatorwood as an idea, right? It's Creatorwood as a movement
Right.
rather than a platform. And I'm confident in like this coming to life. And I'm excited by it because, like you said, Troy, people need stories more than ever. Stories are so important.
Mhm.
And, you know, how does the world change when this industry comes to be and people actually get to experience stories, not just from the guy who got the exec approval and all the cash, but from, you know, that mom with the laptop in Iowa or anyone now.
Right.
Mhm.
Well,
Absolutely.
while we get short, well, I just hope there's not some Hollywood executive right now that's watching this and he's like, and he's going to be like, we got to get this guy Michael Evans. We got to pay him a visit. And I just hope you don't end up with a horse head in your bed at some point. Yeah. Listen, guys, we're about at the end. This is extremely exciting, and there's so much more I want to talk about and have you back on. Mike, where can everybody find your? It's going to be posted below. Naturally, your Creatorwood website, but is there anything else?
Yeah, you know, I
Where
recommend
people can find you.
folks go to blog.creatorwood.tv. If they sign up for the mailing list there, they'll get a free book about Creatorwood. This is the type of thing that I think takes time for people to decide if it's right for them and a lot of thinking. And it's a really great book that you get when you sign up for the mailing list that shares with you where this industry is going, some of the tech behind it, the business behind it, and it really gives you the playbook about how to approach this. So I recommend people read it because it's just going to be super helpful. So that's where you should start.
I signed up for mine, everybody. So grab yours.
There you go.
All right, thanks, man. This sounds super exciting. I mean, how can you say no to it? If you're both an author and an entrepreneur, which we all are, how can you say no to it? I mean, this is just inevitable, and it's fun, and it's the wave of the future, and people and these kids can watch the stuff on their phones while they're in math class. So, all right, you guys, it's been terrific. Troy, my sidekick, we will see you later. And all right, guys. Ciao.